down there. And lap counter going? Yes. Okay.
Fantastic.
Yep. Yes. Oh, yes.
It's a crisp shirt you have on.
Yes.
All right.
Lots
5,
of starch.
4, 3, 2, and 1.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome to the Jersey Alchemist. And you know I'm your host, Dr. John Gerard Gallucci.
And I'm Philip D'Angelo.
And, of course, here's Bones. Bonesy. Yeah. Bonesy's getting there. You know, he's getting closer and closer to his SAG certificate. And, you know, we can't jump the gun. You know, we got to make sure he's ready. But he's going to be a significant part of this entire production.
John, if he gets his SAG card and continues his acting career, will he someday go to the Oscars? I mean, I know we talked in previous podcasts about Will Smith, but, you know, and smacking Chris Rock. I don't think anybody was going to smack Bones, though. I think he could stand up for himself.
There'll be a few to try to take advantage of him. That's what I think.
Yeah, disgraceful.
It is disgraceful.
Yeah.
But then again, boy, you know, he's of a special cohort of the population, right? So we gotta you know, virtue signal and protect the Bones' type.
100%.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Actually, I'm pretty good. You know, we just went through 2 days of on and off monsoon here in New Jersey.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Right?
It was nuts. I'll tell you, New Jersey, you know, other places in the country and the world, you go to Florida, you know what you're getting, right?
Pretty
you
much.
Go to Alaska, you know what you're getting, right? New Jersey, we get a little bit of everything.
We do.
And it's not just a nice passive shower. It's like some torrential rainstorm, 3 to 4 inches fall in a few hours. You know, snow, a little flurry. No, we get a foot of snow when we get it.
Right.
The heat wave, you know, summertime, warm weather. No, it's going to be 100 degrees for like 6 weeks.
And muggy as hell.
And muggy as hell.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the muggiest I ever was at was Louisiana, New Orleans. 2 o'clock in the morning, outside, it was so thick and humid.
Wait a minute.
It was unbelievable.
Just what were you doing at 2 a.m. outside in New Orleans? Was this Bourbon Street?
We were in a casino, and we came out to go to the hotel, and we were walking the streets.
You're a sinner.
I was babysitting somebody.
I bet you were.
I was babysitting somebody who was sinning.
Oh, now you remind me of Jimmy Swaggart. I have sinned against you, my Lord.
I wasn't sinning. Yeah, no, that wasn't
You
me.
were swimmingly sinning.
Yeah, I was.
Say that 10 times fast.
I was making sure that people that were sinning were not being taken advantage of, because you know it's a place where a lot of people drink. So
yeah.
You know, I was there to.
What's the
make sure.
big drink down there? The Hurricane.
The Hurricane.
Right?
Yeah.
That's some bar, and the big drink is the Hurricane. It's one of those big, red, fruity drinks. Had a couple of those one night, yeah. Yeah.
New Orleans, Louisiana, very historic down there.
Oh,
I mean, talk about United States history. I had no idea, you know?
Yeah.
And continue on the drinking side of it. There's a bar, a carousel bar, that I don't know how old it is, but like every minute it just rotates.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, like, within 30 minutes, you're on this side of the bar where you started that side of the bar, and you didn't move.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Bourbon Street, not so clean, though. I don't know if that's the right word. It was, it had some different smells.
Okay.
Very crowded.
Okay.
Very hot and steamy, and, I mean, it wasn't a total disaster, but...
right.
It's been used.
Yeah, I can remember sitting on a balcony, very tight, you know, those balconies down there are really old. They're from like, you know, the 1800s, and sitting there, and I had a couple of ice cold beers and a big platter of crawdads. Oh boy, they were good. But I'm a foodie, so.
Food is amazing in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I went to the, geez, what's the name of that joint? The Commander's Palace.
Yeah.
Apparently, Emeril Lagasse was I don't know if he was the executive chef there at some point early on in his career, but I mean, really, really pretty darn good place. Yeah.
That was
Oh,
good.
remember Paul Prudhomme?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, Paul Prudhomme, when I was in dental school in Manhattan in 1984, my girlfriend at the time, who became my wife and then subsequently became my ex-wife years and years later.
The journey.
There's a journey, right, with 3 great kids. But you know, we're friends. We're friends, and we still have a good time. You know, going out as a collective family to eat and drink. Anyway, one day we were walking from uptown to downtown where our apartments were, and there was this line that went on for blocks to get into this tiny little storefront, and it said the Cajun chef Paul Prudhomme. And you know, we got back, and you know, I don't know how we looked it up, because this is way before computers and cell phones, but he was this, you know, morbidly obese Cajun chef that was taking the United States by storm. And he was, I guess, his promoters said, look, you're gonna do a month in Manhattan, you're gonna go to San Francisco, you're gonna go here, you're gonna go there, you know, getting everybody, you know, all jazzed up over Paul Prudhomme. So he was a real celebrity, like, you know, television all the time. So on one of my jaunts to New Orleans, which I think was for the Southeast Surgical National, you know, hubbub conference, I was a surgery resident, you couldn't get near Paul K's kitchen, Paul Prudhomme's Cajun restaurant, for dinner. But for lunch, it was a walk-in. There was nobody there. So I said, come on, let's go in. Let's go in. And I had just bought his book in a bookstore. And so we're sitting there ordering lunch, and it's just a little storefront. And who walks in with his wife? Paul Prudhomme. And I went, hey, Paul, big fan, brother. And I showed him the book. He came over, he sat down with us, he signed the book, and of course, then he sat down at the next table with his wife, and they ordered and they ate. But that was kind of exciting, and that's a good memory of New Orleans.
Have you met any celebrities, John, outside of Paul? I mean, that, you know, didn't exactly measure up to what you thought they'd be, like weren't as friendly or accessible? I mean, you don't see many celebrities out there.
I'm that guy that's one step removed from a whole bunch of big ass celebrities. Just keep missing it. But that's okay. I'm not really a celebrity guy. Look, I like to muse at celebrities, you know, oh yeah, so and so, right? But I'm not a celebrity chaser. I guess in my Broadway days, when in the summertime we would go once a week to Broadway, there was a time when there wasn't a single show on Broadway that was showing contemporarily playing that I hadn't been to at least once. So I got all of the major actors and actresses autographs on our playbills. But of course, the person that I really liked back then, but I love him now more than anything, rest his soul, was Danny Aiello. We were coming out of a theater, and I think we saw Dracula, which was a great play. I saw it with 3 people. I saw it with Frank Langella, who I think originated the role on Broadway, I think. Then it was Jean Leclerc, and then Raoul Julia. Rest his soul, he passed. But we were coming out, and we were talking and chatting in the crowd, and up pulls a Cadillac, and the window opens up, and it's Danny Aiello driving the Cadillac. It was his car. And he goes, hey, what are you all doing here? You're crowding the sidewalk. He says, oh, I said, Danny Aiello, sign this, but come on over here. Signed everything. He was a good guy. Then I saw Vincent Gardenia a couple blocks away. Completely different time. May have been the next year. He was walking on the sidewalk with his little hat, with his briefcase. He was a little tiny guy like this with somebody I think was his agent. I said, hey, Vince, big fan. He went,
He was in Moonstruck, right?
Yes,
I
he
love
was the
that
father in
movie.
Moonstruck.
Yeah, he was good. Talk about a great character actor. He can play anything, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you that corny question, John. If there was a celebrity or somebody in history that you could sit and have dinner with, who would it be?
Alive or dead?
Dead, alive, it doesn't matter. In history.
Some human being.
Yeah.
If I had to choose anybody I could to,
Yes.
to what? To have dinner with?
Yeah, sit down, have a little dinner.
Okay.
Break bread.
Okay. Nice restaurant.
You choose.
You know,
hot dog stand. I don't
Speaking
care.
of restaurants that spin, how about that place in Manhattan? What is it? Top of the World or something on the
World.
Marriott Marquis?
Yeah.
That's a pretty neat place.
That's a nice place. I
Yeah.
went over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Who would it be? That's a great question. Leave your comments below. Who would you choose if you only could have dinner with one memorable celeb person, dead or alive? Who would it be and why? Wow. You know what? There's a lot of semi-contemporary people that I would love to sit and have dinner with. Like Marlon Brando.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
You know, you could pick a lot of people like that.
Any
But-
sports guys or historical figures?
I think I'd have to say, speaking purely from an historic perspective, but now that opens up a whole big
Sure.
playing field. I was gonna say George Washington. Think about how unbelievable it would be
I can't believe you said that.
to bring him, boom, and we're not going to rush this. It's going to be a 2.5 hour dinner with many courses and many fine bottles of wine. I happen to be a red wine aficionado, and that he was too. I bet his wooden teeth were stained red. But if we're going to go back that far, I wonder how it would feel to have dinner with Julius Caesar. Right?
Wow. George Washington was my favorite president. I mean,
Were you going to say that?
yeah. I mean, well, but but he true. You talk about presidents, and we've discussed a little bit of presidents in the past episodes. But George Washington, the true meaning of commander in chief. Think about what he had to go through, right? To fight big bad England. I mean,
Do you know how close he came to utter defeat and destruction? The British had him surrounded.
I think on Staten Island.
Yes.
There's a book, John, how
I wouldn't want to be surrounded on Staten Island.
yeah, and the fog came in
Yeah.
out of nowhere,
Right.
and he escaped on boats at night. There's a book where the Indians that fought against the United States, because not only were we fighting Britain, fighting the Indians who would go side to side, the French were here, and they'd go side to side. Whoever was winning, that
Well, you know, it's funny that we're talking about this. I just watched a video last night about this, and they were going on and on about that unspoken of faction, the Loyalists. They were colonists that were supporting the king and the queen, so they were fighting against the revolutionaries,
John,
who
we're-
were considered terrorists of the day.
That's right. And let's talk about the media now. Back then, it was newspapers, and they were literally printing what was going on. Washington defeated. The terrorists, the rebels are getting defeated. Who's winning and losing? I mean, it was
You
really.
think they have fake news? I bet they did.
Probably, yeah.
Well, do you know that famous story about fake news?
No.
See, fake news goes all the way back, peeps. Yeah, and goes all the way back to, of course, that beloved family, the Rothschilds.
Mm.
The Rothschilds owned the the news outlet of the day when Napoleon was fighting Lord Wellington.
Lord Wellington.
Right. You know, the French and the Brits, you know, hated each other. They would fart in their general direction. And pretty much the observing world kind of figured, oh God, Napoleon and his army, we're not going to stand much of a chance. Right? So the odds makers were betting that Napoleon was going to wipe up Wellington. And so the Rothschilds, being deeply embedded in the finances of London, stock exchanges and whatnot, they also owned the news outlets. So, of course, there were no electronics back then, and they had runners on horseback. So, apparently against all odds, Wellington defeats Napoleon. And the Rothschilds runners, right, get back to the hub where they're going to print, and they come back with the story. Wellington wins, he defeats Napoleon. Rothschilds had their finger on the trigger. And they printed in the newspaper outlet of the day, Wellington defeated, smashed by Napoleon. That caused a panic in the financial markets in London, and everybody was selling whatever they owned, selling off their stocks pennies on a dollar. Who was there to gobble it all up like the scumbags that they still are? The owners of the news outlet, the Rothschild family. And whenever, contemporarily, whenever you're watching a news outlet and they say, just in, a report from Reuters, everybody says, oh, Reuters. Like, Reuters is this godly, never wrong institution. Whenever Reuters speaks, people listen. Well, the Rothschilds owned Reuters also. Ha.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Going back to Washington, there's a book out there.
So fake news was the point of that.
Yes.
All the way back.
It's nothing new.
Right.
Like the title of your book, My Life with God, this is a book about how a higher power, how God was involved with George Washington. How when after the war, they interviewed Indians that fought against Washington and who said they knew a higher power was behind him, because in battle, their sharpest, and Washington was on the front line on a white horse. I mean, it's not like he was hiding or in some office back in DC.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. He was out there, and they said their best marksmen could not hit him. They don't understand. They hit everything else that moved, but the arrows were missing.
So he was there. Yeah. In their sights.
Oh,
that's the
lined
point.
Up.
Isn't that crazy?
And they could not hit him. They knew then that a higher force and a higher power was behind this man, as they put it.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's an amazing book. I'd love to get that book, and you know, his connection with God, and how, you know, that is an amazing. 3 years, I think the soldiers went without pay. American soldiers, the revolutionaries.
Well, see, they must have really been convicted that, you know, if they ceased their fight, they'd probably be rounded up and executed anyway.
Do you know what the charge was for treason back then against the King of England? That's why anybody who signed that paper, the Declaration of Independence, was going to be held in treason. George Washington, supposedly they offered the job to lead the troops to a number of people, and they turned it down. Because you know how they try you for treason? What happens to you after you are found guilty? Well,
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So they pick you up in the jail cell. I forgot where I heard this. They pick you up in the jail cell. They drag you by horse to the gallows. Okay. Once you get to the gallows,
drag you.
Yeah, on the ground. They drag you by everybody to the gallows. Then once you get there, they, with a sword or whatever, they open up your abdomen. Okay. Your intestines that are hanging out, they light them on fire. Okay. And then, pretty gruesome, right? Yeah. And then they hang you, and then they cut up your body parts and ship it back to the king. So he's satisfied, I guess, that, the threat is over. That's how they tried you. That's what happens if you got convicted of treason.
The king.
Back in the day.
The king.
The king.
What family would that have been? The monarchy of what country? Great Britain?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. With all of the torture that happened in the Tower of London, it's not a joke. My kids went on vacation to the UK with their mom. And while touring, I guess, Windsor Castle, maybe, the tour guide showed them a large black bird. I don't know if it was a raven or a crow. I think that it was a large black raven. And the lore is, they said that if the raven is cared for, the monarchy will stand. Now, I can tell you personally, and I promise you it's true, that birds and animals are spirit messengers. But if 6 ravens or 6 blackbirds or 6 crows appear at one time, 6, not 4, not 2, not 1, it's a harbinger of the dark side. And it's written about in my book. But think about that. Torture like you can't even fathom in the Tower of London. You have just heard the story about what happens to dissidents of the king. I mean, that's really kind of beyond. For the monarchists out there, maybe you need to think twice.
You know who you are.
Yeah. So,
it seems to me, John, that the most amazing presidents were truly leaders on the field of battle as well. Commander-in-chief. And I think as we get older now to today's times, I mean, it's not even close. Those guys couldn't shine those other guys' shoes.
Right.
When was the last time we had a commander-in-chief that actually, George Bush Sr.? I know he was...
I don't buy that for a second.
No?
Come on.
I don't know.
You know what? Please, that family.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Let's go all the way back to Prescott Bush. Oil tycoon. Funding both sides of World War II. Come on. Yeah. Anyway.
Never trust a guy named Prescott.
Yeah.
Beautiful example right there.
Before we started today, Bones had mentioned to me, you guys, you had all of these great plans for this boardwalk wheel, but you don't use it. What do you think?
I think it's time. We have a...
You want to pick a topic?
We have, because we're the Jersey Alchemists and we're in New Jersey, we put up a boardwalk wheel just like on the Jersey Shore. And it has all the topics, current events, some not so current, and we're going to spin it. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, we're going to give it a good spin, and whatever topic comes up, we'll do our best to adhere to that topic. Now, if you've been watching the Jersey Alchemist, we veer off topic all the time. Yeah. It's okay. I mean, look, the premise is that we're going to shovel the shit and then we're going to alchemize it and turn it to gold. We're going to expose how to overcome all of the hardships and the dark side of this world.
Amen. So let's give it a spin.
You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Okay. Drum roll. Ready?
Bones. Drum roll.
Hang on, you're in front of it. And
law enforcement.
The wheel of fate stops at law enforcement.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Where can we really go with law enforcement? Well, let me tell you something.
We can go everywhere with law enforcement.
Well, let me tell you something. Law enforcement in today's world, I don't know how they do the job that they do. I mean, under attack. I think in New York City, there's a law now that you can sue a police officer. They no longer have protection from the law. If somebody held under arrest, feels like he was mistreated. I mean, how many police officers die now, John, in the line of
Too many.
duty?
Too
Too many. I mean, it is a tough job, inner city wise. Now, if you're a cop in some town where the, you know,
Mayberry
Mayberry and
Right.
Barney Fife and Sheriff Taylor,
has one bullet in his shirt.
I mean, that's pretty good to be that to have that job. Otis the drunk was all you had to worry about.
That's true.
You know, how were
Right.
what are your feelings on law
Well, it's
enforcement?
funny, you know, the topic of law enforcement, especially on a show where we, you know, we dig deep and dig up the shed, people would kind of default to saying, "Oh, he's going to bash the cops." No, maybe we're not going to bash the cops. Maybe we're going to take the stance that being a police person, man or woman, very difficult. You're putting your life on the line, and I think where it's gone is I think it's thankless. I do. You know, I mean, and maybe that's why I think you can retire with a full pension at, is it 44?
I
Or
think.
did they jack it up to 48?
Well, I think you have to put a certain amount of years in. It's either 20 and out or 25 and out.
Right.
Yeah, so
Overall,
no
it's
matter-
not the year. That's not your age. It's how many years
Years
you put in.
I know I ride motorcycles with about 4 or 5 retired police officers. I mean, they're like 52, 51.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
they all.
Are they insurance salesmen now?
No, I mean, well, if you talk to them, it's like they were laying bricks for 50 years.
Right.
You know, but no, they're, you know, they do security, odd jobs here and there, you know, just
Right.
to get through. But they did, you know, we're home while everybody's home relaxing, having dinner. You know, they're in a squad car somewhere in a parking lot,
Right.
chasing somebody down. I know if you know anything about Jersey, Newark, New Jersey is one of our toughest towns, cities.
You don't say.
Yeah, one of our toughest cities. And one of, you know, sometimes they'll tell a story about, you know, it's 1 a.m, car comes out of Newark at 100 miles an hour, tinted windows. And, you know, the police officer, what are you going to do? You know, are you going to make that decision to let it just go? You know, that
Right.
car could end up being hurting somebody. There could
Or
be
it's
somebody.
got 4 people with automatic weapons with their fingers on the trigger.
So in the middle of a highway like 280, Route 21 out of Newark, you know, it's just you against whatever's in that car. And you pull it over in the middle of the night, your backup's not there yet, and you have to do your job,
Right.
you know?
Right. But now I've never been a policeman. There's police and detectives all through my family. But the way my brain goes with that is instead of a, you know, a single patrol person, you know, taking up a chase in that kind of scenario, I would only imagine you call that in, you give headquarters the whereabouts, the velocity, the description of the vehicle. If you got the plates, that's great. And then maybe somewhere down the line, they can put some kind of gauntlet up and, you know, tire spikes or whatnot. So there's probably a better way of handling that than just pursuing them by yourself. Because I think pursuing that vehicle by yourself could easily end up being suicide.
Absolutely. And look what happens when, you know, you approach somebody who's doing something. Look at New York City now, Manhattan. There's homeless everywhere. A lot of them are not mentally stable. I mean, now how are you going to get that person who's not stable, who has nothing to lose,
Right.
and get them off a subway train or get them up and off a sidewalk? I mean, the only way you're going to do it is by physical force, and that's going to lead to an altercation. And you know, that's how they make their living.
Right. I think that there are protocols in place, like, you know, for a crisis alert. If you think somebody's actually, you know, in a break with reality, I think that there are protocols, but nevertheless, it's still gonna require a physical altercation. You're absolutely right. Right.
There's a shirt that I've seen some police officers wear at the gym. We fight what you fear. So think about that. You know, the bad guys
Yes.
are out there.
100%. And you know, but you know, the main, you know, let me say this. We're talking about law enforcement because the wheel spin comes up law enforcement. But it's the mainstream media that incites rage wherever they want rage to fall. So how many times have we seen just a piece of a video? We don't know what happened before or after. We don't know the series of events that led up to some horrific event, do we? Except, and there's one video in mind that was just horrendous. There's so many videos that are horrendous, but a convenience store owner called the police, apparently because 3 or 4 teens, and in this instance they happen to be white. That's not why I'm telling the story. I'm telling it because I can't believe the video. They called the police that a bunch of teens were causing a problem of some degree in their convenience store. Single police officer pulls up in a patrol car, and 4 teens come walking out of the store into and across the parking lot, right? One guy has his headphones in and is listening to music with a hoodie on. The other three are just walking, in step with that guy. Police officer screams, "Stop! Stop!" Well, 3 of them stop. The 4th one, the one with the music in his ears by his headphones and his hoodie up. Now, did he not hear the police officer? Was he completely unaware? Maybe. Next thing you know, officer pulls out his semi-automatic, aims it, and blasts this kid. Shoots him 3 or 4 times in the trunk, in his chest. Kid hits the ground, and now the police officer, of course, holsters his weapon and realizes that he mortally wounded somebody's kid. And he's begging the kid, "Stay with me. You're gonna be okay, friend. Stay with me, stay with me." And of course, there's foamy bubbles coming out of the kid's mouth. The blood on the ground around him is just welling up because the major vessels were hit, the lungs were hit. And that was a video that you just can't forget when you see it. And did the news put that on? You bet they put that on. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have, but what do we do about that kind of event? And it doesn't matter in that instance what color the kids were. These kids happened to be white. The police officer was white. What a horrific happenstance. So something like that, you would think that the mayors of each town would be held to task to make sure that the chief of police in that town instituted certain protocols and training checkpoints. When do you pull your weapon? Now, I've never been a police officer, but it didn't seem like this police officer was able to use that tried and true, I feared for my life.
Yeah.
That's what, I feared for my life. So I pulled my pistol, and I think that if you pull your pistol, you're shooting, and if you're shooting to kill. And a lot of people have chewed on that whole issue of, why does a police officer have to shoot to kill? Why can't you shoot to neutralize? Now, I understand, that somebody along the line, if they shoot to neutralize and not to kill, maybe that person that falls to the ground still has a weapon, turns around, wields it, and shoots and kills a police officer, or one or more. And that could easily happen. I don't know.
I don't know how anybody could. I mean, of course you should question, especially with videos, body cams now. But I don't know, John, how you could question, not you, I'm just saying anybody. I mean, that split-second decision, especially if the person you're engaging with, in that case, the young boy didn't have a gun. But if you're engaging with somebody and they do have a gun, I mean, or hiding a weapon somewhere, I mean, in a dark alley, in a dark street, I mean, I would not want to be put in that
No,
I would almost,
no, me neither.
yeah, I would not want to be put in that predicament. I mean, wow, that is tough. And to go through that on a daily basis for 20 to 25 years, it's pretty amazing. That's a tough way
It
to
really
live.
is, and it, to be honest with, I mean, you know, the mainstream media could paint it any which way they choose, which is why, you know, as far as I'm concerned, this is what the mainstream media has done to itself over the last 5 years, 6 years. I think they've taken a grenade and they've packed it snugly up their own asses and pulled the pin. Yeah, I think that they pulled the pin on their own grenade. I do. I think that the mainstream media has really no credibility anymore. And for the people who are still quoting CNN and MSNBC and Fox, whoever's still quoting them, wow. I'm just amazed at your level of, I'll be nice, at your level of, let's leave it at that.
Incompetence, dishonesty,
Foolishness,
all of the above.
idiocy.
Yeah. And John, you always have, I think we should also take the task, the social media platforms.
Oh, big time. Oh,
I mean,
my gosh.
there's
wow.
so many police videos.
I kind of lump them in with mainstream media. They really are.
I mean, there's so many videos out there where you're only seeing part of it. I mean, and it does not look good for the police 9 out of 10 times.
No, but I think that they do this on purpose. I think that there's a wink, wink mandate that says comb the countryside for every damning video that will paint law enforcement, you know, in just this terrible light. And then you get, you know, a happenstance like George Floyd, God forbid, and now we got riots. It sets up the scene for Antifa and that little jerk off George Floyd who wants to basically completely destroy this country.
George Soros.
What did I say, George Floyd? Well,
yeah.
no, I just had George Floyd on my mind. No, George Soros.
Yeah.
No, I take that. Let's walk that back. Let's make that clear. I just cited, God forbid, George Floyd, rest his soul, and I went right to Antifa and George Soros. George Soros is an insurrectionist. He's treasonous, and I don't know how his heart is still beating. But defund the police. If you're really for defunding the police, you're an idiot. You're a complete idiot.
George Soros, not as he for defunding the police, but he puts his billions of dollars behind very liberal, anti-establishment prosecutors, attorneys, district attorneys.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem lies. If you're a police officer on the street and you arrest somebody, chances are they're going to be back on the street before your shift is over.
Right.
If you arrested somebody in the ShopRite parking lot, chances are, if you're shopping that night, you're going to see him back in that parking lot
Probably.
at the same time.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean, we need people. So all that pressure seems to fall on the police officers.
Right.
I mean, they're not getting support from prosecutors, very liberal. They're not getting support from the attorney generals of the state that are writing and approving all these laws. I mean, that's, you know, it just comes down on them, and their shoulders are only so wide. They can only carry so much.
Right.
You know, so I tip my hat to them any chance I can. They are our unsung heroes in most cases. I mean, there's always a few bad apples here and there, and it just seems when there is a bad apple that they blow it out of proportion.
Right.
You know, but you know, it's a tough job. It's
Very,
a tough
very,
job.
very, no doubt, very, very tough job. And what, you know, if there's some horrible happenstance within earshot, people immediately think, oh my God, somebody call the police. Somebody call the police. Well, Are you still going to think that way if your police are defunded? Now, apparently defunded doesn't mean to disband. Okay, what does it mean? Why doesn't somebody give a shout out in the comments? What exactly does it mean to defund the police? Because I know that it doesn't mean to disband the police.
How about these videos, John, where you see on social media? Now, how do you react when you get pulled over by a police officer? I mean, I was always taught from law enforcement in my family to make the police officer feel very comfortable. Okay? So you turn the motor off.
You mean like, can I get you a coffee?
Yeah.
You
look a little tense, officer.
Powdered donut? Often,
Yeah.
no, that'll get you arrested. Powdered donut, right.
I mean, you take the key out of the ignition, your hands on the steering wheel, all the windows down if they're tinted. I mean, make them feel comfortable. You have all your paperwork ready. But I see these videos on social media and forget about it. They're not opening their window. The police officer is asking for ID. No, I'm not giving it to you. Why do I have to? What did I do? All these things. It states that you can't ask me that. You can't do this. I mean, you're antagonizing a very tense situation. I mean, police officers are only human. They're only human. And I don't know how you're supposed to respond if somebody's giving you a hard time when you're just trying to do your job. What do you do?
No, your question to me was, I think it was, how do you feel when you look in your rear view mirror and you see that light bar and then you hear and you see the lights go and you're like, my first reaction is, what the beep is he following me for? Why am I getting pulled over? Really? What am I doing, 38 and a 25 at 11 o'clock at night? That kind of shit bugs the crap out of me. It does. It does. It bugs the shit out of me. Case in point. I come up a long, steep grade from Route 22 to go over the mountain to Washington Valley Road to get to my house. And it was 11:01 p.m. And I had done like 2 emergency operations in a row. And you know what? Maybe I'm just fed up and exhausted. I'm not angry. I just want to get home. There's nobody on the road. And I'm going up this really steep incline. And I was doing 48 miles an hour. Okay, I think the speed limit was 25. Woo-hoo! Get pulled over. Hi, officer. You know why I pulled you over, sir? Not really. You're doing 48 and a 25? And I was like, geez, was I? I really didn't realize that, license, registration, insurance, all of that stuff. And I just, I think how it goes for me really ends up on the attitude of the police officer. There are some policemen who are really polite, and you're like, it's a little bit of a love fest by the end of the encounter, and they give you a warning and they don't give you a ticket. Case in point, the nastiest cop that I've ever encountered. I was coming out of a major shopping center on a busy 4-lane business district road. I'm not going to say where it was. Now, I'm at the red light coming out of this parking lot where there's many, many stores and restaurants. And I had made this left coming out here to go north on this road to go back to work. I want to say 100 times. 1,000 times would be a lie. It's an over-exaggeration, right? 100 times. I had no idea that way, way, way up in the air on an electrical wire, on some kind of like guide wire from pole to pole, there was like a 12-inch sign across the street, 30 feet in the air, no left-hand turn. Never saw that sign ever, and I had made this left-hand turn 100 times, right? So here I am, a good citizen, sitting there at the stop line, looking at the light, blinkers on, light turns green, I proceed, pull out, make a left, woo-hoo, get pulled over. I pull over to the side of the road, and there's a short little woman, police officer. She goes, "You know why I pulled you over?" And I looked at her, I says, "I have no idea. I wasn't speeding. I just came out of the parking lot at the light change." She says, "You're arrogant." And I said, "I'm arrogant. I answered your question." She goes, there's no left turn coming out of that parking lot." And I went, now I'm thinking, I've made this left turn 100 times. So I said there, I says, "No left turn coming out?" I said, "Is this new?" She says, "It's been there for years." And I says, I says, "Okay." I says, "I never saw a sign that says no left turn." She says, "It's right up there." And I was like, okay. Now, she's such a nasty little bitch. Traffic was ensuing behind her. Cars were whizzing behind her like by 3 feet. She was so nasty. She was so inappropriate. She was like all those videos on YouTube of the little Chihuahua. If a 130-pound Rottweiler acted like a Chihuahua, they would be outlawed. So she was reacting like that Chihuahua that you think is going to rip your head off. And all I could think, and of course I'd never do this, is, geez, you know what? If I opened my door, you'd be in traffic in a second. Ooh. Why are you so effing nasty? Why did you come right out of the gate swinging and accusing me of being arrogant when all I did very sincerely was answer your question? I don't know. But guess what? She gave me a moving violation that cost me almost $400. Yeah. And then as soon as I got the letter in the mail referring to the ticket, then I got 3 or 4 letters every single day for 2 weeks from law offices. So they're all in on it. It's all a big game. So Smedley Butler may have written that war is a racket, but in this sense, law enforcement is a racket all tied in with the lawyers. So if we pull Joe Blow over and give him a moving violation, that's 3 points on his license. Now the insurance company's in on it because you're going to get screwed. And the lawyers send you a letter because they know you got the ticket, and they go, "Hey, here's how it works, bud. You pay me $500, I make the points go away, and then you show up in court on that day, and you say mea culpa, and you pay your $398 fine." And that's how it goes, Freddie.
You know, John, it has a lot to do, like when we've talked in the past about the medical field and bedside manner of a physician or a doctor, how far that goes. I think curbside manner with a police officer goes a real long way too.
It does.
I've accepted tickets. They treated me like a gentleman, almost apologetic that they were giving me a ticket. Maybe their supervisor around. And I'm like, and I actually ended up like, "Hey, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you spoke
Right.
to me like a human being."
Right.
But when it does come to that, I mean, you know, yeah. And it seems like, at least in my life, whenever you're going through the toughest time in your life, it seems like that's when you get the most encounters with the law. For some reason, when I was, you know, going through a real tough time, it was like I was getting pulled over left and right. And I was like,
Yeah.
What the heck is going on here?
Well, maybe it's that whole thing with the law of attraction where your
Exactly,
consciousness
yeah.
has this negativity and turbulence, and it's, you know, the vibration goes out like an antenna and it pulls it into you.
One time I was in New York working for with my job, and at the night before Christmas Eve, I worked a double shift. So I was on a New York thruway the night before Christmas Eve at about 2 a.m. on my way home, like you. A long day, right? I committed a crime, John. In the middle of that thruway in New York State, I forgot to put my blinker on. going from the middle lane to the right lane.
Oh, wow.
Thank God there were no other vehicles on the road for miles and miles. Thank God a New York State trooper, who I have a lot of respect for, pulled me over and issued me that citation.
Gave you a ticket?
Oh, yeah. But that's okay.
You know what? That's the guy who's got a big fat hemorrhoid and doesn't know how to have it taken care of.
Whatever. I mean, you know, but the worst part of the story.
It was the end of the month.
Yeah, probably.
It was the end of the month. His quota, he had to screw somebody.
Well, the worst part of the story is I gave that ticket to my boss. And I said, hey, you had me do a double, okay? The least you can do is pay this ticket for me. Pay this fine, you know, take care of it. He said, okay. Well, guess what? He never paid the ticket.
God.
So a year goes by, all right? The state of New York automatically, now they talk to each other.
Yeah.
They suspend my license in New York, and then they call Jersey, DMV, and my license is suspended there. Now, I have no idea.
Where's your license in New York?
New York and New Jersey. The New Jersey license, right? So New York got in contact with Jersey through the computer system, I guess. No good. So on my way to work a year later at 4 a.m. to start another 12-hour shift, another officer of the law pulls me over, and because you ran my plates, and my plates goes license suspended. You're driving while suspended. Yeah. So that didn't break out too well. That was a problem. But we got it all said and done. But see, I mean, if you get involved with law enforcement, it could break bad. It could break bad.
It could. Now I have a story.
With me, it usually does.
Can I tell you a story?
I would love to hear
about having a driver's license suspended.
Oh,
okay.
I'm not the only one.
Oh, no way. Okay. So, I won't say where I was employed. I won't say the name of the township. I won't say the name of the road. I'd like to. So, I'm at the main exit of the facility where I was working. And that facility had played some hand in the local law enforcement authorities putting up the old automatic red light cameras. Yes, the old automatic screw you public camera. Okay. Everybody that worked in that facility, thousands and thousands of people, were aware of the automatic red light camera. So, one night, rainy, slick, glary, glittery night. It's about 9 o'clock at night. It's been a long day. I was in the OR at 7:15 a.m. and now it's after 9 o'clock and it's raining. The roads are slick and I'm at the red light. My blinkers are on like a good boy. Light turns green. And I go. And as I make that left-hand turn, I sense a flash. And I went, well, I guess somebody's getting a ticket. I had no clue it was me. I had no idea what I did, except a ticket came in the mail, like a week later. And I opened it up. It was a ticket from the township with a photograph of the back of my car being like 6 inches over the spray painted white line on the ground. And I'm like, what bullshit is this? So the next day I call up the township and I go, what? You gotta be kidding me. You know, you put up this automatic red light camera where thousands and thousands and thousands of people come back and forth and back and forth. This is just filling your coffers, isn't it? And nobody has the ability to be represented. Otherwise, you got to go get a lawyer. But you can't fight the automatic red light camera. So they got angry at me. They got angry at me because when I paid the ticket, it says, "Would you like to leave a memo?" Oh, yes. And I said, "Thank you sincerely for screwing the public." And I sent it in. Well, guess what? I got another ticket 2 weeks later. And I said, I paid this ticket. So I ripped it up, and I ripped it up, and I ripped it up. It came 2 or 3 times. I had no idea that the red light camera caught me again during the day. I never got the picture like I did the first time. So what did they do? Turns out I was driving around for 3 months with a suspended license.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Yeah. And I can't remember how I found out. I went to do something and they said, oh, you can't do this because you don't have a license. I went, what? Of course I do. Here it is. Oh no, the township of so-and-so suspended you. I was enraged, I have to admit. Yeah, all because of the bullshit red light camera. And I can't tell you, I won't tell you, I will not tell you all of the machinations that went through my mind. Like, how do we take out that son of a bitch AI automatic red light menace that's making thousands and thousands of dollars for the township? And then I started thinking the hospital probably had a hand in this. Otherwise, why would they agree to that? Wouldn't they stand up for the people who work there? Like 25,000 people work in that place. So, to make the long story short, I had to go down and talk to the township clerk who was behind a bulletproof, armored window, blah, blah, blah. And she was at least as nasty as the officer that gave me the moving violation for making the left-hand turn out of the supermarket, shopping plaza. Nasty. Oh my God, nasty. And this just gives law enforcement really shitty, crappy PR. And you know something? On top of that, all it takes is a video now and then on the mainstream media about some guy sitting in a car with his wife, and a cop pulls up and shoots the guy, kills the guy in front of his wife. We've all seen that video. I mean, guys, just like the mainstream media, and I described it as how I think the mainstream media carries on, is they stuck their own grenade up their own ass and they pulled the pin. And they expected it to work out okay. Law enforcement, you're doing the same exact thing. So people, thousands of people all over the place, have these unforgettable vignettes about the nasty cop, about the ticket that should never have been. It's about the automatic AI red light camera. Really? And then the mainstream media piles it on with, wrongful death videos. Hey guys, you know what? We can't police you. You guys got to police yourselves. And once you convince the general public that you can police yourselves, then maybe it's going to be okay. And then maybe the numbnuts out there that are calling for the defunding of the police, maybe they'll be silenced once and for all. So to finish off that topic, I'm all for the police. But you know something? Police yourselves, get it right. Stop abusing the population. People are tired. People are fed up. People are screwed. We're all a bunch of debt slaves. And that goes out to law enforcement. We're debt slaves. So what do you want to do? You want to make it worse? No. Have a little empathy. There's a couple of statistics that I could say, but I won't. And I'll leave that for a different time. I don't want to come across as anti-law enforcement. I'm not. There's nothing about me that's anti-law enforcement. As a matter of fact, I've donated for years, but not ostensibly, because a real donation's supposed to be anonymous. So I won't say where I've donated to or how much, but it's been a shit ton, and I think it's gone, purposefully. But I think that we all need to do better. We all need to do a better job. Want to turn it around, Phil?
Turn it around in what way? What do you mean turn around? Because as you're talking, I'm thinking of all these past experiences I've had with our men in uniform, who I totally respect 100 and support. But it's like a warrant. All right, now for a parking ticket. All right, so you don't get the parking ticket or you forget about it, and there's a warrant issued for your arrest. Now, if you get pulled over for doing a heinous crime of 32 and a 25 or something, and there's a warrant, guess what? Even though you've never I'm not on the books as committing any crimes or being caught. So
That you know of.
well, I know of them, but they don't know.
All right.
But I mean, I'm just an old man. But there's a warrant. You're gonna cuff me for a parking ticket and put me in the back of the car?
Did they?
No.
No.
But I'm just saying that does happen, and it's happened to people I know. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no, and I get it. You see a warrant, you have to find out if it's for,
Yeah.
an assault, deadly weapon, robbery, something. I get that, but come on. I mean, you pull up, the guy's
Right.
60.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not hurting anybody. My DMV is what? I made a right on red like 14 years ago. I mean, come on.
Right.
But like I said, curbside manner, bedside manner, it goes a long way.
Statistics. What profession has the highest incidence
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
of spousal abuse?
Is it law enforcement? No,
Yeah,
it is.
it
Wow.
is. It is. So I contend that those people, if you want to lump them all into one basket, and I don't think that's fair, there are people who have a prison guard mentality from the get-go. Maybe they were bullied in high school when they were 5'2", and now they're 22 years old and they're 6'2", and instead of being 120 pounds, now they're 2 1/4, 6'2". Maybe they're doing some juice and sticking themselves with some steroids, and they have something to prove to themselves and to the world. I don't know, but you know something? The prison guard, the rotten prison guard mentality is not appreciated anywhere.
That's true.
And I think we all know people like that. And you know something? Hollywood scripts are written to rile up and get the ire of the moviegoers going by writing a script where there's injustice just like that. You think it doesn't happen, it happens more than you know.
Wow. Okay, John. I think that's a good way to end the episode right now. That was a very interesting topic. I loved using the.
How do we alchemize this topic?
How do we
come around? How do we do the turnaround?
Well, turnaround one is
Campfire, weenies, marshmallows.
I think it's communication. I mean, really, if you're talking about with police officers, is that what you're talking about?
The wheel. The wheel gave us law enforcement.
I mean, I think what you really have to do is communicate. I mean, if there is an issue, you have to bring it to somebody superior and deal with it on that level. I mean, that's what I really do. I mean, but it's tough. Like I said, if we're having a tough day and our buttons are being pushed, and they're having a tough day, it's going to be tough. But we need law enforcement in our lives.
Totally.
We need it in every community.
Absolutely.
Without law enforcement, there's anarchy, and and that's the way. But it's communication. But I would tell people to be very considerate of that police officer when he does come to your car.
Right.
At least make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Right.
And 9 out of 10 police officers will do the right thing. And for that one that's maybe a little rough that we've experienced and you all have, then you know what? Just suck it up, take it, and then go to his superior, and then solve it there.
So right. So what we're really looking for here, and the wheel of destiny here pulls up law enforcement. We're looking for a little human decency and a little mutual respect, consideration, that everybody is running in the same friggin' rat race. Everybody, right? And so we need law enforcement. And you know something? I look to the day when law enforcement and the community in general are arm in arm, hand in hand. And that would be wonderful. Kumbaya. But I'll end it on this note, and I'm serious. you can take your automatic red light AI cameras and stuff them where the red light will never shine.
Very well said.
Okay.
All right, Johnny.
See you again.
Thank you so much.
See you soon on The Jersey Alchemist.
If you like what we're doing, please press the like button and subscribe. Thank you, people. Peace.